So today we're going to continue talking about the active reading strategy. Now, 2 weeks ago, we introduced part of the strategy, especially thinking about vocabulary. Now, again, in my opinion, my feeling is that vocabulary is the most important thing for students. So that's why the first couple of weeks, these first 2 weeks, we're talking a lot about vocabulary, because everybody here in the class, you want to be a better student. You want to be a better English speaker, reader, writer, and of course, the way to do this is you need more words to communicate. So that's why we're spending some time here at the beginning of this active reading strategy to talk about vocabulary and why vocabulary is so important. Okay, so last week we introduced kind of the basic idea. Today we're going to continue with that same idea with a little thing I call canvassing the text. You can say that just there at your computer or phone. You don't have to turn on your microphone, but just repeat it after me. Canvassing the text. Okay? So canvassing, the actual meaning of canvassing, I'm going to talk about in just a moment. But first, let's review a little bit from 2 weeks ago. So maybe if you can remember 2 weeks ago, now you might say, Mr. John, I can't remember this morning. But let's see if you can remember this from 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to ask you a question. So the idea is, which one of these sentences is true? Okay, so I'm going to read the choices. You look at the choices and see if you can guess which one is true. So 2 weeks ago, we introduced active reading strategy. So for example, is it true that active reading strategy is like having a conversation with the text? B, can be part of learning new vocabulary words. C, can help ESL students understand what they are reading better. Or is it D, all of these answers are true? So what do you think? Is the answer A, B, C, or D? What do we think? Say it again, Fatiha.
I think it's D.
Okay, so Elena says D, Gisela. Okay, so Jamila says B. Okay, all right. Getting lots of answers here. Okay. All right, everyone's sharing their answers in the chat box. That's fine. Okay. All right, excellent. All right, so everyone says D here. Some people say B. Well, here we go. Are we ready for the answer? Okay, everyone, so get ready for the drums. Here are the answers. Aha. It is D. All of these answers are true. So if you answer D, congratulations, you can get some free ice cream. Okay, so go to your refrigerator and get some free ice cream. So the idea here is, we talked about that active reading strategy is like talking to people. It's having a conversation with what you're reading. Now, we're going to show that more in the next couple of weeks. Okay, so again, letter A is something we're going to do more in maybe next week and 2 weeks later. Now, when it comes to learning new words, we said that active reading is very important in that process. And then we also said that it can help students understand what they are reading. That's the problem. Often when students are reading, they just move their eyes, but they don't try to understand what they are reading. Now, one problem is because they don't understand all of the words. So that's something we're going to be thinking about here this morning. So let's take a look now. I'm going to just kind of review a little bit. So let's take a look. So it says 2 weeks ago, we were introduced to active reading. Okay. Now remember, active reading is a way to read the text that uses many of the same things we do when speaking. So we said when we're speaking, we do lots of things to help us understand. Well, we're going to try to do the same things to make us a better reader, right? So that's something we talked about last week, 2 weeks ago. Now, one thing we said is, the first thing we learned is that when we see new words, we should try to be more active, okay? Now you say, Mr. John, what does that mean, active? Well, it means that I am trying to think. I'm trying to talk. I'm trying to be more interested in what I'm reading. again, sometimes students just move their eyes, right? Sometimes if I'm reading a book and I'm just moving my eyes from left to right, It's kind of hard to see on the computer. But when we read, sometimes it's sort of like this. We read and read, and then suddenly we fall asleep. So the problem is, if we're just moving our eyes, we're not thinking. We're not using our brain. So we want to be more active, and we want to use that energy to help us be a better reader, okay? Now, I'm going to ask two people to help me once again, but do you remember the example we used 2 weeks ago? So what I would like to do is, I'm going to ask, let's see, Luana, I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask Junko. Okay, so Junko and Luana, you're going to help me here, okay? So Junko and Luana, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so Luana's ready. Junko, are you ready to help me? Hello, Junko.
Hi.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so we're going to try this little conversation. Okay, so Junko, you're going to be the woman in the conversation, and Luana, you're going to be the man in this situation. Okay, so everybody, maybe you remember this from 2 weeks ago. All right, so Junko, you're the woman, so please begin.
So, as I was saying, did you figure out the problem?
Okay, now Luana, here you go.
Figure it out. What does that mean?
Okay, now, so 2 weeks ago, we said, what would you do in this situation? So someone is talking to you and they use a word that you don't understand. So notice the man is thinking, what does that mean? Figure out. So 2 weeks ago, I said you had some choices. Do you remember these 3 choices? All right, now, Saba, I want you to read these 3 choices here. So Saba, are you ready?
Yes.
Read these 3 choices for us again.
Okay. We say that you have 3 choices here. Be confused and smile and continue the conversation. Ask the person what they mean. Run away.
All right, so for example, we said if you did number 1, many students do number 1, right? We just smile. Is this you? Is this everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
Before.
And maybe number 3, we ran away.
I will ask. I always ask.
Okay, now Elaine says she always asked. Okay, well that's good, Elaine. But. Okay, Saba, can you keep reading for us?
But actually, do you have a 4th choice? Before asking her what figure out means, you can think about the problem she was talking about.
Yeah, so again, in the conversation, she used a word you didn't know, but she also said the word problem. Now, everybody here, you probably know this word, problem. Oh, there was a problem. Yeah, so the man and the woman, they know each other, right? I mean, they're not strangers. These people know each other. They're talking to each other. So let's continue now, okay? All right, so the problem here, so Luana, can you read the man's thinking there?
Yes. She said problem. Does she mean the problem from yesterday?
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago, we didn't think about this. We just said, well, could I just ask what figure out means? But here's the problem. The problem is she's talking to me and I don't know this word, but I can think about other things. Oh, wait a minute. She said that there's a problem. Could this be a problem we talked about before? Maybe this was the problem we discussed from yesterday. Okay? All right, now Junko, please continue. You're the woman.
You look confused.
All right, Luana.
Do you mean the problem from yesterday?
Okay, so notice he doesn't ask about the word. He asked about, the problem. Okay, so watch what happens here. Watch what happens. So, Junko?
Yes, that problem. Did you figure it out?
Okay, Luana?
I don't know what figure it out means, but I still have that problem.
Okay, now notice, this is different from 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, he just asked, I don't know what figure out means. But now he's beginning to think that problem and figure out, maybe they're connected. Maybe there's some relationship. See, now the person is being active. The person is starting to think. Okay? All right, now Junko, please continue.
Oh, sorry. You know, understand. Fix the problem.
Oh, yes, I fixed the problem.
Okay, now watch. Watch next, though. So, Luana, read what he's thinking.
Oh, so figure it out means to fix like a problem.
Aha! You see, 2 weeks ago, we only thought about just that word. What does figure out mean? It means fix. Okay, so in the moment, I fixed the problem. Yes, I can understand. But now he's being active. You see, now he's thinking, I can use the word figure out to figure out a problem. So when I use the word figure out, now I'm making a connection. I'm trying to be more active, okay? And that's the basic idea. So what we're trying to learn here is you can begin to understand the conversation, and also importantly, you can try to learn a new word. You see, that's what we're talking about here in reading. Now, first off, Junko and Luana, thank you very much. So we'll give you a clap. All right, congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you very much. So the idea is, guys, when you're in a conversation, right, we're not just thinking of one word. Our brain is always working. We're trying to understand what the person is saying. Now, maybe many years ago, when you were a young beginning English student, you didn't understand anything. And you might say, Mr. John, I don't understand everything now. But at least when you start to understand more words, then your brain starts to thinking more. Okay? Now, what I'm trying to show you is this is something you do when you're speaking, when you're in a conversation. So what I want you to think about is, how can we do this when we're reading? How can I be more active? So remember, we could use our phones and like translate. We could use our phones and just use the dictionary, but we don't remember things. So you remember we mentioned sometimes words go in one ear and then out the other, right? Sometimes we hear something and we just kind of, we don't pay attention to it, or we don't understand it. So what I'm trying to show you here this morning and for the next few weeks is, if we want to be a better reader, we need to be more active, because when we're more active, we can understand things better, not perfect, but better, and we can learn new information. That's what we want. We want to learn new things. So everybody, if you want to be a better reader, listener, writer, and speaker, we need to learn more words. But the problem is, to learn more words, we have to read more. And that can be difficult because we need to learn more words to read, but we read so we can learn more words. That's why we're learning this process today. Okay? Now, does everybody remember this from 2 weeks ago? Do you remember this picture of the active vocabulary learning process? Does everyone remember this?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. John. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, did anyone get a tattoo on their arm of the active reading process? Do you have a tattoo right here?
Oh.
No? What? You mean I sent this to you in your email? You didn't go and get a tattoo right here of the active learning process?
I picture it, but not tattoo.
Okay, well, all right. I'm disappointed, but that's okay. That's all right. So the idea is this process is going to help us. So once again, I want to go through this process very quickly, and I'm going to ask you to help me. All right. So for example, Miriam, can you read the first step for us? What did we do first, Miriam?
First, we found a word.
That's right. So we looked for words in the text. Okay, excellent. All right, let's see. Olena, what was the next step? Can you read that for us, Olena?
Next step, guess the meaning.
Yeah, so we looked at the words around it and we tried to guess the meaning of the word. Okay, excellent. All right, let's continue. So Jamila, what about the next step? What did we do next?
Use the dictionary.
So now notice, using the dictionary is not number 2. It's number 3 on this list. Many students, they find the words and then they go to the dictionary. But if you go to the dictionary, and goes in one ear and it goes out the other ear. So step number 2 is guessing the meaning. Step number 3, use the dictionary. Okay? All right, let's continue. All right, so let's see. Haruna, would you read the next step for us?
Explain the meaning.
So when we explain the meaning, we try to explain it to other people. That's important. If we explain it to somebody, then our brain is beginning to understand it. Okay? All right, and Vladimir, would you like to read the last one?
This
Can
is
you
the
read the last one?
final step to learn how to use the word.
That's right. So we need to practice making sentences. Now, for homework from last time, we took some of the words we learned, right? Do you remember some of the words we practiced with in our homework assignment? Who can remember one word we learned?
Perplexed.
Perplexed. I know that one, Mr. John, because it means confused, right?
Curious.
Curious. Very good.
Scared.
Oh, you guys have some good ones there. Yeah, there you go. Desperate. Remember desperate?
Frightened.
Tremble.
Tremble.
Oh, tremble. Good. That's a good one too. Okay, excellent. Okay. Now, see, those words were words we needed to read, but now they're words that you can start to use. Now, are you going to use these words every day? Maybe not. But let's be clear. You lose your keys, you're desperate, right? I notice everyone put that for their answers on the homework assignment. I'm desperate when I lose my keys. I'm desperate when I lose my glasses. So I'm worried about losing my glasses. I can't see without my glasses. Okay.
There's desperate housewife.
Hold on. Go ahead, Lilia.
The word disappear.
Disappear. That's right. Yeah, my glasses. Yeah, for example, my glasses disappeared, and now I'm desperate. Right? Yes. Has that happened to you guys? Have you lost your glasses before, and now you're desperate? Yeah, that happens to me.
Or credit cards.
Oh no. Yeah, that's the worst. Oh yeah, losing money, losing credit cards. Okay, that's the worst. Okay. All right, now guys, let me go ahead and continue. So I'm going to go ahead and continue for just a few minutes. And now we're talking about this idea of canvassing the text. Now, first off, everybody, the word canvas, I'm going to write it in the chat box. Okay. Now, first off, guys, the word canvassing means to look for votes. So, for example, when we think about elections, like we just had our election, last week, when people canvass, that means they're looking for votes, and sometimes they're looking for voters. People might go into the community. So, for example, people might canvass for voters, which means they might go out and talk to people who were going to vote. They might say, are you thinking of voting for this person or this person? So the word canvass specifically means to look for votes, but we're going to use it in a different way here in this class, and it's called canvassing the text. Now, canvassing the text, basically, it's very simple. It's not a very difficult thing. The idea is we look at the text, right? So before we read it, we look at the text and we try to find words we don't know. Now, you might say, Mr. John, that's very easy because maybe I don't know many words in a text. Well, of course, we want to read text that's not too difficult. Okay. Now, sometimes you might say, Mr. John, I want to read the newspaper. I want to read a book in English. Well, again, yes, that's a good idea. But, newspapers and books are often very difficult to read. We need to read something that's more at our level, right? That's important. So that's why the Burlington English readers are a good place for us to begin. They're not too difficult, right? It depends on the level that we want to read. So again, the Burlington English readers have different levels. And so that's why we're using Burlington English here, because there are some words we don't know, but it's not too difficult to read. And that's okay. That's really good. We need that to help us learn. But I do want to tell everybody that canvassing can be a slow process because it might take a lot of time. But I'm trying to show you that if you learn this process and you learn more words, then you will be better as a reader. And then, more importantly, you won't have to canvass too much in the future. You see, when you learn more words, you don't need to do this. But now, everybody in this class right now, you need to do this. You need to look for words you don't know before you read. So that's what we're going to demonstrate here this morning. Now, we're going to use one of their next stories in the Burlington English Reader about the famous explorer Marco Polo. Have you guys heard of Marco Polo before? Do you recognize the name Marco
Yes.
Polo? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else recognize Marco Polo?
The journalist explorer biography.
He was an explorer, that's right. Now the question, of course, is what did he do? And yeah, so like we said, he was not an astronaut. No, Marco Polo was a long time ago. A long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah, no, but Saba, that's a good example. Many people know the name, but they don't remember what Marco Polo did. So that's what we're going to be doing here this morning. Okay, now guys, if you remember, I mentioned you need a piece of paper and a pencil. So does everybody have paper and pencil? Are we ready? Because we're going to need it for this next part. Okay? Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump to the Marco Polo text. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of get us started on our first activity. So what I'm going to do here this morning is we're going to look at just two small sections, two small parts of chapter 1, the first chapter of the Marco Polo story. Now look at the instructions here on the screen. So we're going to listen to part 1. So you're going to see it on the screen and I'm going to read it for you. Okay? Now, as I am reading, what I want you to do, so with your piece of paper, okay, so you got your piece of paper and your pencil, is if you see a word that you don't know, I want you to write the word on the paper. Do we understand? So I'm going to read the story, the first part here on the screen. And as you're listening, if you see a word you don't know, I want you to write it on your paper. All right? Very simple, very simple. Okay? Now, when I am finished reading, then I will ask students to tell me which words you wrote down. Okay? Now, if we were in the classroom, normally I would just have students circle the words, but we can't circle the words on the computer or on the phone. You can't right now. So that's why you need your paper. Okay? So again, paper and pencil. Are we ready to go? So I'm going to read part 1. You just write down any words that look new to you. Okay? All right. So here we go. I'm going to read now part 1. And again, you just listen and write down any words that you don't know. Okay? All right. So here we go. A big surprise. Some say I'm the greatest traveler in history. But I wasn't a brave adventurer. I was just a simple boy from Venice. I wanted to see new places, meet new people, and learn about new things. But once I started, I couldn't stop. From the start, I was a curious child. My father left Venice when I was 6 and my mother died shortly after that. So my aunt and uncle raised me. At that time, Venice was the center of the world. Gondolas moved in the canals under bridges and between beautiful buildings. Merchant ships crossed the Mediterranean Sea to bring clothes and food from Spain and North Africa. But I knew there was a bigger world out there over the sea. Okay, now I'm going to give you just a moment if you need to go back and look and see if there were any words we didn't know. And then in just a moment, I'm going to ask you to tell me which words you wrote down. Okay, so I'll give you about 1 minute. I want to turn off my microphone for about 1 minute. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to turn on my pen feature here. Okay. All right, I'll use red. Okay, so I'm going to kind of start here at the first paragraph. I'm going to put a little box here. So in the first paragraph, I'm going to put A next to it. Okay, so were there any words in part A that anybody wrote down? You can use your microphone to tell me if you like. Okay, Vladimir, any words in part A?
No, everything's okay.
Everything's okay? Anybody?
Brave.
Oh, it's fine. All of them familiar. Like we can.
Brave.
Okay, so well, we'll just hear if anybody has any words. So I hear brave. Okay, any other words? Anybody else? Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, all right. Let's look at part B. Okay, any words in part B?
Raised.
Raised. Okay,
Yeah, right.
good, good.
Gondolas.
Gondolas. Okay, good,
Gondolas.
good, good.
Merchant.
Okay, so Giselle says merchant. Okay. Say it again. There's a little interference. Try it one more time. Canals. Canals. Okay, sorry, there was a little bit of interference there. Okay. Okay, any other words? 3, 2. Okay.
Over the sea.
Say it again.
Over the sea.
Over the sea. Over the
Last
sea.
one.
Okay, the last part. Okay, I'll circle that. Okay. All right, excellent. Okay, now you might say, Mr. John, tell us the meanings. And I'm going to say no.
No.
I'm not going to tell you yet. Okay, again, what I'm just trying to show you here first this morning is what canvassing is. This is canvassing. I go through the text before I read it. Now, of course, I'm reading it for you to help you in this process. But you, when you're practicing at home, and you're going to get a chance to practice at home very soon, very, very soon, what you're going to do is just go through and try to see, are there any words I don't know? Now, before I continue to part 2, there was a word in this reading that we learned last week. Did anybody notice the word we learned last week?
Yes.
Congratulations, Miriam. So the word curious. Yeah, so congratulations, Miriam. You get the free ice cream again. So go to the refrigerator and get some ice cream. All right, so the idea here is when we see new words. So for example, we just learned the word curious. Did you notice? Did you notice that word when I was reading? Did you hear that word? Did you pay attention to that word, Miriam?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't it interesting when we learn new words, how those new words are right here in our brain? We just learned it and there it is. Well, that's what I want to show you. When you learn new words and you practice with the words, they become active. And then we start paying attention to those words in our brains. Okay, so congratulations. There was one of the new words we learned from 2 weeks ago. Okay, now everybody, we're going to do this one more time. So I'm going to move to the next part. So again, this is part 1 of the story. But before we do that, as we said before, we're going to try to guess the meanings. Okay, so that's what we're going to do real quickly, is we're going to try to guess the meanings of some of these words. Now, not all of them. We don't have time to do all of them. So let's go back for just a moment. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at before and after those words. If you remember, that's what we did 2 weeks ago. We tried to guess a little bit. Now, we don't have time to do this for every word. But let's go back for just a moment to the word raised. Okay, so someone mentioned the word raised. So let's kind of use our pen tool for just a moment. Now, I notice the word after raised is me. Raised me. Okay, now everybody, now don't tell us the meaning. Don't tell us the meaning. But before the word raised, which words do you think are going to help me guess the meaning of the word raised? Who can help us?
My aunt
And uncle.
Okay, so for example,
my uncle.
my aunt and uncle, okay? So my aunt and uncle are doing something with me, okay? Now, let's continue. Let's go back to the beginning of the sentence.
My father and like his parents died.
Okay, so I see, for example, my father left and my mother
Dead.
died. Okay, now
Yeah,
my
dead.
father and mother, I think we have another word for that. My father and mother, it starts with the letter P. Who are these people? When I use
Friend.
parents.
Parents.
Yeah, my parents. My mother and father were parents. Now, my aunt and uncle, are those my parents?
No.
Yep.
Family.
Yeah, they're family. Maybe brother and sister for my mother or my father. But yeah, so the truth is my parents were gone. They died. They were not here. So my aunt and uncle. Now the question is, what does raise mean? Who could give us maybe a definition?
To take care of me or adopt me.
Okay, so maybe take care.
Adopt me.
Adopt, okay. Okay, so what you're saying is, for example, to raise children, we raise children. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we take care of children. So if you're a mother or a father, we raise children.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, here's a question. Here's the question. Say it again. Say it again. I'm sorry.
Make them grow behind us.
Ah, grow. Yeah, the word grow is kind of similar to raise, isn't it? Yeah. Now, here's a question. Do I raise dogs?
Yes.
What do you think?
Yes. Where is the dogs?
Are you sure?
Like adopt?
Well, I can adopt a dog. Yeah, if they're at a shelter, I can adopt a dog. Do I raise dogs?
No.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, here's what's funny. The word raise, we usually use the word raise for children. Now, of course, we could raise animals. It's strange, but for example, I could raise crops, like corn, for example. Yeah, it's weird. This is a weird word. I could raise corn. I could raise animals. It's strange, like if I have cows, for example. But for some reason, we don't raise dogs.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know. So this is one of those crazy things about English. So that's one of the things we're learning is some words in English work in some ways and sometimes they don't, they work in others. Now, for example, I can say I have dogs, I take care of dogs, but I don't know if I would say I raise dogs. I don't know. Maybe not. So in this case, probably not. But for some reason, I can raise corn. I can raise animals like cows. So yeah, who knows? Now, Sergey made a good comment here. We can breed dogs. Yeah, so Sergey, that's true. Breeding dogs is what we do with those kinds of animals. So that's a good answer. Yeah, that's a good answer. Okay, guys, English is crazy. Okay, so just remember, we can raise animals, we can raise children, but for some reason we don't raise dogs, we don't raise fish, and we don't raise cats. Cats, come on, you cannot do anything with cats. Okay, all right, now guys, we have just enough time. We're going to do part 2. Okay. Now, part 2, we're just going to do the same thing, okay? The same thing. I'm going to read it. You find which words that are not familiar to you, and you write them down, all right? So again, do we understand? So I'm going to read it. You write down the words, and then we'll circle the words when we're finished. Okay, so guys, get ready. All right, so again, we'll turn microphones off for a moment, and just listen and use your paper and write down any words, okay? So here we go. I went to school, but the lessons there were never enough for me. I was interested in every subject: languages, commerce, religion, animals, architecture, and more. I wanted to know everything. I made my poor aunt and uncle crazy, and they didn't know what to do with me. And then, one day, when I was 17, I got a big surprise. It changed my life entirely. I traveled home from school on a gondola and went up the stairs to my house. Inside, 2 men were waiting for me. They had beards and wore colorful clothes. I didn't recognize them and thought they could be thieves. Okay, so again, I'm going to give you 1 minute, then we're going to come back. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my mic and camera for 1 minute. Okay, everyone, our minute is up. So once again, let's do like we did in part 1. So I'm just going to put part A here. Okay, so are there any words in part A that I should circle? Anyone?
Commerce.
Okay, so commerce, okay.
Commerce. Commerce.
Anybody else?
Architecture.
Okay, so bien, architecture. Okay.
Architecture.
Okay.
Mm,
Anybody else?
mhm.
All right, I'm counting. 3, 2. Okay, so let's make part B this last part here. Okay. All right, any part from part B. I'll circle gondola because we mentioned that already. The last word, thieves. Okay. Any others?
That's it. All of it is
And entirely.
Entirely. Okay, good, good. Again, there, anybody can circle a word or tell me. Okay. Okay, 3, 2, 2.5.
I think this word I know it, but someone cannot know it. It's recognize.
Recognize. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll circle any word that maybe we're not sure about. Okay. All right. Excellent. Okay. Now, the idea here, guys, is this is what we call canvassing. Okay. So canvassing is when we go through and we circle the words. Now, let's continue back to the lesson because our time is just about up. Now, don't worry. This information is going to help you here in a few minutes. Okay. Okay. So let's review what we've learned so far today. So canvassing the text is an activity that can help us understand the words in the text before we really read it. So again, you may not remember much of the text right now. That's okay. That's okay. We're just looking for words we don't know. So we look through the text to find any words that are unfamiliar. Now, Saba, for example, you mentioned, I know this word, but I can't explain it. That's okay. Circle it. Yeah, that's the idea. Circle or write down those words. Then we can try to guess the meaning by looking at the context. Okay, so sometimes we can. Now, remember, sometimes we can look and look and look and we can try to guess and guess and guess, but sometimes we do not have enough information. So that's why I said here, so look carefully, I said we can use and or the dictionary. Do you see that there? We can either try to guess the meaning and use the dictionary, or we can look at the word, try to guess, and say, I cannot guess the meaning. So then I go to the dictionary. So again, that's okay. The dictionary is okay. The translator, the translation, it's okay. But what I'm trying to tell everybody is don't go to the dictionary first. Okay? Do we understand that? Don't go to the dictionary first. Try to think about the word first. Okay? Now, I'm not going to make you raise your right hand and promise me, right? You're going to say, I promise not to go to the dictionary first. But the idea is if you go to the dictionary first, you might forget that word. And we want to learn these new words. Okay? All right, let's finish up here. So once again, what we are learning here today is that canvassing is basically using these first 3 steps of the active vocabulary learning process. We find the words. That's the first step. We guess the meaning. And if we can guess the meaning, use the dictionary to see if you're correct. Or if you don't know, then go to the dictionary. Okay? Now, the last thing I want to mention is canvassing is very important. But look what it says. I'm sorry, it's supposed to say this can help us begin. Sorry, I need to put that in there. Let me put that in there before I forget. So it can help. Oh, that's yellow. That doesn't help. I'll just write it. Use my pen here. This can help us. Yeah, sorry. So it can help us begin. I forgot the word help. To understand and learn new words. But notice what it says. Canvassing is not enough to remember them. Canvassing is the first part of this process. But if we want to learn the words, we still have to try to explain the meaning. And then we still have to try to make our own sentences. So again, we're not going to do that with all of the words right now. We are just learning the first part. We want to find the words, guess the meaning, and use the dictionary. Okay? All right, so guys, here's what we're going to be doing for homework. Now, this is going to be something different than what we've done before. So when we canvas the text, it can be slow. It's going to take a little time. But the idea is when you learn more words, then you don't have to canvas as much in the future. We want to learn these words, Mr. John, so I don't need to keep looking in the dictionary. Now, look what it says in this point number 2. If the reading is short, so for example, today we did some very short readings. We can canvas all of it. We can look at all of the text before we read it and circle those words. Okay? Well, that's what you're going to do here in just a few minutes. Okay? But if the reading has many parts, like if it's a long book, right? So for example, I've got a book here. Notice that's a pretty big book here, you know. I don't have time to canvas the whole book. That would be impossible. So that's why we only canvas some parts. My suggestion, for example, is maybe canvas the first or second part. Because guess what? Maybe they will use a lot of the same words. For example, today we saw the word curious. This was a word we learned last week. See? So when we learn more words, we don't need to go back and learn them again. But keep in mind, canvassing can be slow. That's why we're just going to practice with it on small parts. That's why we practice today on the small part. Okay, so speaking of homework. All right, guys, now listen carefully because here's the homework. The first part is actually very simple. So when class is finished today, in fact, in about 10 minutes, you're going to get an email from me. So here's what the homework is. Your first homework assignment is this, and you need to finish it before tonight. Okay, you can do it right after class when you get the email, or you can do it at 11:30 p.m. tonight if you want to. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you in the Burlington English Reader the first chapter of the Marco Polo story. Now, we looked at the first page of chapter 1. The parts we looked at today, part 1 and part 2, that was part of chapter 1. So it's about 3 pages of the story. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your paper and you're going to look through the chapter, just chapter number 1, okay? Just chapter 1. And you're going to find more words that are unfamiliar to you, and you're going to write them down on your paper, okay? Now, after you're finished, you're going to give me those words in a form, in a document, okay? I'm going to show you that document right now. So when you're finished here with class, you're going to take the words that you wrote down and you're going to put it in this form, okay? Let me show you what it looks like. So this is what you're going to put your answers in for tonight. It says canvassing chapter number 1, and you can click here for the link to chapter number 1. You just put in your name. I don't need your email, just your name. And then it says here, in the box below, let me zoom in the box below, please type all of the words you wrote down that were new to you from chapter 1 of the Marco Polo story. So that means pages 5 to 8, those 3 pages or 4 pages, just put those words you wrote down. So for example, some of the words we chose today, we chose brave, right? Gondola, entirely, right? Those are some of the words you guys had me circle. And then when you're finished writing all of the words you didn't know, you're going to click on submit. All right? Do we understand this?
Yes, I got it.
Okay, now you are going to finish it before tonight. Tonight. Okay? So you're going to get an email in a few minutes, and you're going to do this first part before tonight. Now, after that, tomorrow, I'm going to send you an activity based on the words that you chose from the story. Okay, now I can't choose every word. We might have 30 or 40 words when we're finished. But I'm going to look at everybody's answers, and I'm going to see which words did most people circle. Which words did most people choose? Okay, so maybe that'll be maybe 10 words. Okay, and then I will send you that homework activity tomorrow. Okay.